Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. The main event here, and today we're going to be talking about the Portland Regional Championships that were won by Gavin and Michaels using a rain team. The format of the video is going to be us talking about the team first, then we'll look at the usage stats for day 1, day 2, and then we'll go into top cut and top 8 stuff. We'll talk a little bit about why Miraidon didn't have its normal performance at this event, and how KYOGRE itself was able to win. Let's go ahead and get into that now. So starting with the team, Gavin Michaels was using Grimmsnarl, Fluttermane, Amoonguss, KYOGRE, Cali Ice, and Bastion Legion. So not a 6 you probably were prepared to see. And maybe not even a 6 that everyone can play, but Gavin can play because he's just the rain guy, right? Gavin Michaels is the premier rain player. So the Grimmsnarl was different than most people's Grimmsnarl because one, he was using 2-attack Grimmsnarl, right? Which I think is really good. Most people just aren't prepared for dual attack Grimmsnarl. You only have to watch out for Spirit Break. Sucker Punch puts a lot of pressure on things like Cali Shadow because they want to Terra Dark and then you can Spirit Break it, right? And Cali Shadow is really bad in the Grimmsnarl just generally. Not to mention a lot of things Terra Dark to avoid things like Thunder Wave, but then the Spirit Break hits them for a lot of damage. And Grimmsnarl is a strong Pokemon, around 125 base attack. And then he just had the standard screens, which obviously keeps the other Pokemon alive. Then he had Fluttermane. Fluttermane is a Pokemon that people used to put on all their teams back at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet, but then it became more of a Sun team specialist, I want to say, where it was only found on the Sun teams for the most part. But Gavin went back to the old ways and put Fluttermane on the team that had nothing to do with Sun, mostly because if you look at the team, right, you could argue the team was weak to Sun, right? Miraidon probably runs over this team. But Fluttermane does a couple things. One, takes advantage of the photosynthesis, so it can outspeed the Sun teams, which also sometimes have a Cali Shadow, so the Fluttermane can outspeed them. And on top of that, it forces Terras out on the Koraidons, right? Because the Moonblast will just wipe off the face of the earth. And all Koraidons, 100% of them are Terra Fire, which makes them KYOGRE food, right? And so does Cali Ice. Cali Ice and Fluttermane on the team will always force those terrestrializations out of the Koraidon, and that's where KYOGRE comes in. Having the taunt on here also works really well. In finals, we were watching and he was playing against a Wheezing Koraidon team, which probably should normally be a Death Sentence for this kind of team, right? Because this thing needs its Swim ability, KYOGRE needs its Rain, Grimmsnarl needs its Prankster, right? These things need their abilities to function. The team needs their abilities to function as a whole. And not to mention even Amoonguss and Cali Ice, which worked in top 4 versus a Koraidon Wheezing team. That Wheezing didn't have taunt, but the Wheezing he played in finals did have taunt. But having the Fluttermane on the front really helps because his line was Fluttermane KYOGRE, right? So what that does is you have Icy Wind support. You're going to speed tie or outspeed the Koraidon if the Koraidon is not max speed. You can Icy Wind, and they kind of have to respect the fact that you can just Moonblast them, right? So they have to respect that. And you lead the KYOGRE, so even in Sun with Mystic Water, what is about being 150 base power move off this 150 special attack stat at full health is still really strong, especially with Mystic Water, even in Sun. And super effective hits just hit really hard. So you can almost one tap the Koraidon with this, as we saw on stream. Not to mention, you can taunt the Wheezing if you want, so you can stop it from clicking moves like Toxic Spikes. You can even stop it from taunting if you want to you can taunt it to stop it from taunting you if you want to work with your Cali Ice and Amoonguss mode, right? So it gives a lot of options. And then what's something that Gavin did that was really smart to me was he had the Grimmsnarl on the back in these Wheezing matchups, because what would end up happening is if he does get the Trick Room up, now Wheezing's Prankster doesn't really matter because it's slower than the opponent's amount, so he can get the screens up a lot easier. So a matchup that you would think is a death sentence essentially was pretty much solved by the premier rain player. Otherwise, the team itself, like I said, the Grimmsnarl's 2 attacks, very standard Fluttermane, otherwise standard Amoonguss with Terra Dark, standard KYOGRE, except it had 3 water moves, no ice coverage because you already have ice coverage, no electric coverage because you already hit grass types, and you hit water types by just excuse me, you just hit water types with your other mons, like your Bastion Legion with Last Respect, for example. Fluttermane can hit them with Moonblast. You don't really need the electric coverage to hit the opposing water types, really, especially because the water types don't really do anything into you, right? Because you have KYOGRE, Bastion Legion, Amoonguss, and screens, so the water types aren't really your enemy. But otherwise, standard Terra Grass, KYOGRE, Terra Fairy on the Cali Ice Most Kaliases were Terra Water, but I guess Terra Fairy is just more neutral, especially because this was a super bulked out Kalias from what I remember seeing it on stream. It just didn't take a lot of damage from anything. And then behind screens, with lefties and Leech Seed, it just kind of stayed on the field no matter what. I think it was a time where it took like an Astral Barrage. It had like 60 HP, and the Astral Barrage brought it down to like 30. Like, I kid you not, go watch back the stream against the CSR, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happened. We were like amazed, like no shot this thing just survived from 60 HP. Like, that means this thing was just mad, a lot of HP, a lot of special bulk. I can't remember if he had light screen up or not. I think he may have, but like it was actually insane how it was able to survive. But yeah, like, Leech Seed is like Kalias' premier move now, which I despise, but it is really strong. High horsepower just isn't hitting anything for enough damage. Like, Zamazenta doesn't take that much from it, even though it's super effective. You aren't really one-tapping Incineroars, and you're not really one-tapping the Miraidons either. But Leech Seed and all this bulk means you can just leechy stuff and just get their health down and just outlast them. Glacial Lance, even at -1 and even without a lot of attack investment, still does a lot of damage to neutral and super effective targets. So this is probably the Kalias you'll have to be most prepared for going forward if you're going to like NAIC. The Basket Legion was really cool, because most people just aren't prepared for Basket Legion at all, right? Especially a Terra Ghost with Last Respects. Life Orb Terra Ghost Last Respects, I don't know exactly what Terra Ghost was for. I'm assuming that with Terra Ghost and Life Orb, you probably can like kill like a Lunala, for example, right? Because I'm looking at the team, and it could have a bit of a Lunala problem. But with this, they probably think they might be able to live a Last Respects. But you can kind of get them with this, right? So I think that's probably what it's for. I haven't run the calc myself, but otherwise, even still, like Last Respects with Terra Ghost Life, which is going to do a lot of damage if you have like KO'd teammates, right? So the team is really fun. Something that I think I might even give a try myself, having experimented with Ring, but the team is really good. He won the tournament. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the usage stats for day 1 and day 2. So if you look at the top restricted pairs for day 1, Miraidon Kalias was just to be expected. But what wasn't expected was the fact that it basically doubled over. It was two plus times greater than every other restricted pair, right? Caesar Zom was second place, which is not surprising at all, but the fact that this was more than double this was actually surprising. This is what was like kind of the strongest quote unquote pair, because this and the Ursaluna and stuff was really strong. The Electric Seed, the Ursaluna, the Volt Switching, that was a really strong team. But if you look, I guess you'll see in a little bit that this team actually did get a lot of hate. And then the Koraidon CSR, another just fighting plus ghost restricted pair that you expect to see. This was a bit of a shocker, 41% Miraidon. And the reason that's a bit of a shocker, not because it's the top used Pokemon, because that's kind of what you expect, right? But if you look at the top 12 Pokemon, usually that 40% number is specific to a mon like Incin or Urshifu that can like be on every single team without any issues. The fact that this was the second most used Pokemon overall for restricted is like unheard of in this game, Scarlet and Violet. Lunala was up at 4th. KYOGRE was at 7th. KYOGRE did have a really good showing this tournament, which we'll get into. Koraidon, expected. Zamazenta being lower than Koraidon was a little unexpected, but the horses being 2 and 3 expected. Lunala being up there very expected. The Pagos still holding on to its little space, even though I don't think it's that great. The top 12 usage Pokemon here, not many surprises. Ursaluna being here is not something you see often, but as I said a minute ago, the Lunala, Miraidon, Ursaluna team is very strong. Grimmsnarl being 3rd is a shocker in a sense that it hasn't been on the top 12 charts in such a long time, and now it's like 3rd, right? Obviously Scream's just very strong right now. Not that Scream's just very strong, Scream's just overpowered right now, right? Because look at these Pokemon up here. So much damage, right? So much damage, a ton of damage, so much damage, really big damage, huge damage, right? After some combines, big damage. Well, kind of big damage. Grimmsnarl kind of just levels the playing fields where like you're not getting one tapped by all these big powerful restricted pairs anymore. And he was saying Grimmsnarl actually his typing is actually really good into them, right? Like he'll take a Drift with a light screen. He can't click Draco into it. He'll take a Gleam with a light screen as well. Reflect, he'll take a couple Glacial Lances. He's really good into Body Press. CSR can't really hit Grim at all, right? So like it has a good typing into most of these things. So Grimmsnarl actually, I don't see this usage dropping. It might even go up. It might even overtake Urshifu. We'll see. So we look here, the top 4 restricted pairs of day 2. Kalias and Miraidon actually didn't like fall off. Like much, right? Just 2% drop is not like the end of the world for it. This was a big jump. Like Kali Shadow Zom made a really strong showing from day 1 to day 2. Really good conversion. Good conversion for Kali Shadow Koraidon as well. Like this actually was really good for Kali Shadow. This Kali Shadow stuff was not doing very well previously, but Kali Shadow dominance kind of does come in waves. Like people over counter for it, then it doesn't do well. People under counter for it, it does a lot better. This was a bit surprising, just because I'm not a big fan of this like pair, and to see Lunala Miraidon actually fall out of favor that much was a bit shocker. And we'll see one of our first reasons why it probably fell out of favor, right? You see here for day 2 for top 3, this thing was at 41, it's down to 25, and look who jumped in. Zacian is one of those other mons that gives Miraidon a very hard time and outspeeds it. You have to Terra in front of Zacian 100% of the time because it will just attack you unless you use hard switch. Yeah, it's a 50-50, but like because you're likely a specs item, they get to protect and see what you lock into anyway. And not to mention that even if you take like a play rough and you Terra, you still take a lot of damage and you probably don't kill the Zacian anyway unless you like drift it, right? And drifting is very, very scary to do because it gives your opponent like a many outs. So that's one of the reasons why this thing had a bit of a rougher time in day 2 overall, and as you'll see in cut and stuff. Some more reasons why it didn't do as well. So you see Amoonguss Rillaboom, right? Grass types just kind of make this thing's life hard. So Amoonguss Rillaboom jumped up to 3 and 4. And then if you look further down, 2 more grass types, right? 2 grass type redirectors at that. These things also make it hard for Miraidon to succeed. Screens. Miraidon likes to do big damage with Volt Switch or one-tap things with Drift, right? And Draco Meteor. Crimstar doesn't let that happen. Chien-Pao, top 6 of day 2. Ice Spinner, I think, was the most common used move on this thing, which I'll go check on Lab Mouse in a second for you guys. Ice Spinner gets rid of terrain, also does a huge amount of damage to this guy, right? Raging Bolt forces a lot of 50-50s. Flutter Mane, also something that Miraidon has to deal with. Iron Hands, right? Opposing speed control, right? It's just a lot of Miraidon hate in the top 12 Pokemon here, and then a lot of Miraidon hate here. Also, the Kali Ice is a big Miraidon issue, right? Because not only are they running Leech Seed, they're running a lot more bulk than they normally do, so you can't even drift them, and then it's gonna Leech Seed you, and then it's gonna get all its health back with Leech Seed and lefties. So, and then it's gonna like Glacial Lance you too, right? So it's a lot of Miraidon hate in the format right now. I don't think that means Miraidon is going to be like bad going forward, but it's going to be a bit rough for it compared to how it was in the past couple of events. So this is the top cut. There were 67 teams. Just really quickly, you'll see that like Amoonguss really good in the top, really high in the top cut. So is Rillaboom, so is Kali Ice, with the Leech Seed being its most popular move. I'll actually zoom in for you guys once that populates. There we go. So yeah, Leech Seed being its 4th most popular move. Some people did stick with high horsepower, but that Leech Seed one is really annoying. Lefties makes it just really hard. You see Grimmsnarl being its 3rd most popular teammate. So screens plus all the bulk it runs plus all the recovery makes Miraidon's job a lot harder as an opponent. I want to go down here. Oh yeah, and then Chien-Pao in cuts, right? Chien-Pao, Protect, Sucker Punch. Ice Spinner was its most common ice type move. And with Focus Sash and Spinner, like it just makes life really, really hard for Miraidon as well. And you see here, right? It's paired with stuff like Rillaboom, which makes his life hard. Zom is not it's not as favorable into Miraidon, but it makes it so where Ice Spinner or stuff like that will just like KO it 100% of the time for the most part if it doesn't Terra. Obviously, again, Rillaboom, Raging Bolt, just types that make it really, really hard for this guy to prosper. Zacian, 9 Zacians in cut, which is a good number, right, for Zacian, compared to the previous one. Play Rough is on every single one. Behemoth Blade is on most of them. That's funny, that's not on all, but Play Rough being on all of them is really bad for it. Sacred Sword, oh, know what it is? Iron Head, Behemoth Blade were just listed differently. That's stupid. Also, like Swords Dance plus like Amoonguss, for example, is really hard for Miraidon. So you get the +2, even if you like try to intimidate his down, you can boost up your attack, and now at that point, Play Rough will start just KOing you even through Terastallization. I want to go back up really quickly. You see here though, like in the cut, Miraidon did have the most used team comp, and the 2nd most used team comp. But the third most used team comp you see is a team that would probably be really, really bad for it, right? Double grass plus the leech seed. Even though it's 2 water types, it's going to be a grass Kyogre, so triple grass essentially plus leech seed is not great for it. And my apologies, the previous one was day 2. This is the top cut because it's only 26 teams in top cut. So yeah, Miraidon did do well for cut, but if you go to the next one and go to top 8, you see there was no Miraidon in top 8, which is kind of unfortunate, but there were 2 Kyogres. And like, why did Kyogre do so well overall, right? Because if you look here, Kyogre had six spots in the top cut. I know you're probably thinking that's not like the highest, but for Kyogre, it's pretty good, right? Because Kyogre just doesn't do that great in these tournaments. I think because it was partnered with like Cali Ice sometimes. Yeah. So Kyogre's best partner, I think, was best restricted partner, I think was Cali Ice. I'm just gonna double check that real quick. Yeah. So basically what ends up happening is they cover for each other very, very well, right? Kyogre and Cali Ice cover for each other as good as any other dual pair. Because Rillaboom was obviously Kyogre's biggest problem. But once you Terra Grass your Kyogre and you have Glacial Lance on the board, Rillaboom is much less of an issue. Especially because you're getting the grassy terrain healing. You're running it with like screens, most likely. You see Kyogre has a lot of Grimmsnarls on his team. Has a lot of Grimmsnarls on the team. Has Zacians on some of its comps as well. Zacian, Cali Ice, Rillaboom, Grimmsnarl, Amoonguss, just Pokemon that keep it protected from stuff like Miraidon. Pardon me for some of my words, just a little under the weather. But basically, like, it has all the tools it needs to succeed. Even like Wo-Chan, right? Wo-Chan is really good into a lot of the stuff that Kyogre has issues with. Like, it protects it from taking a lot of strong physical attacks. It can heal it up from taking those blows, keeping its water spout at full power. So yeah, really good tournament for Kyogre overall. I do want to look at the top 8 teams, basically, to wrap this up. Like we said, we saw Gavin Michaels. We did see Zhang's Sun team here. We'll just take a quick look at it. He went with the Brute Bonnet over the Amoonguss because obviously Brute Bonnet will get the Proto boost. He went with the Weezing with Taunt, Poison Gas instead of, oh, he didn't have Spikes, he had Poison Gas, right? It's Poison Gas, so you can get the residual damage. Play Rough, so he's a physical one instead of like a Sludge Bomb or something like that. I wonder why it was Play Rough. What would it need to be Play Rough for? I guess just better, stronger Fairy coverage and Fairy Steam, maybe? Because the team doesn't really have Fairy coverage, so I guess that makes sense. And I guess running Weezing plus your CSR, Dark types would be a problem because obviously CSR can't hit it. So if your Karada's not on the board already, you can hit it with Play Rough. So that makes sense to me. He had the Walking Wake on the team, which was an AV Hydro Steam Draco Meteor. So its 2 strongest moves. Snarl with the AV will help mitigate damage for like opposing CSRs, for example, help it take hits from those Flutter Mains. And then Aqua Jet, really cool tech because it helps you get around like Raging Bolt's priority. With the +1 speed from Sun, you get around Champow Sucker Punch. You can break those sasses. So Aqua Jet's really cool tech here, especially because you're AV, right? So you have to figure out a 4th move, and it's probably the best option for you. Very standard Koraidon here. 3 attacks, protect, ability, shield. Encore is a move that Cali Shadow is picking up a lot lately. Just being that fast and being able to click Encore is really nice. A lot of speed ties though, which can be a bit annoying. I probably wouldn't play Cali Shadow just because I don't want to deal with like the speed ties of Encore versus Protect versus Ash Barrage Mind Games. No thanks. And then standard Chi-Yu, which benefits the Cali Shadow and the Walking Wake a ton. Carry Daytona. This person had a Seed Bomb Cali Ice and went through the more standard Rain Core of Jugulis, Urshifu, Amoonguss, Rillaboom, and Kyogre. Aaron Brock, he had the Ting Lu, which is something that we haven't seen a lot of in this format, or even Reg G. So that was really cool to see. Ting Lu was a good answer for a lot of the issues that people were running into with like Miraidon versus Lunala. Ting Lu has a good matchup into both, and it's slower than Ursaluna, so you can like hit it with like Ruination to start chipping down its health. And then also the Burn Tick, right? The Burn Tick plus Ruination will make sure that thing is on a really strict timer. Very standard Cali Shadow Zom team in 5th. Weezing, Dozo, Tatsugiri stuff in 6th place. The Koraidon Lunala Ursaluna team, very standard here. So the rest of the teams are pretty standard. This team is actually pretty much a 9th place team. 2 Groudons at top 16, I think, is really interesting. No Groudons in like top 8 and no Miraidons in top 8, but still, right? 9th and 10th place for Groudon is really strong for it as of right now. I think it'll even do a similarly well at NAIC, just because most people just don't plan into Groudon very well. So if you have a strong Groudon team, you can actually perform very well. But yeah, that's kind of all I have for this tournament. Let me know what you guys thought of this tournament. Did you watch the tournament at all? Where do you think the meta's headed going into the last tournament of the season before Worlds, which is the North American International Championships in a few weeks? Do you think that KYOGRE will still do well? Do you think Miraidon will be back on top soon? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you guys for being here. Click like for your boys. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.